It's high time that we awake from our sleep.
The scripture says, prepare to meet thy God. Are you prepared?
If you don't stand for something, then you will fall for anything.
Okay, welcome back in, guys, to Taking a Stand. This is part 2, looking at social Marxist agenda with the transgenderism aspect and what they're trying to do in the schools. This is really an attack on individual rights. It's an attack on individuals. It's an attack on families, and it's an attack on our society. And we want to talk about it today. We're trying to call it out for what it is. We're trying to explain what's really going on here, and we're hoping that you guys will. Hopefully, together we can vote out this stuff and make changes in our community that are going to be good for our community, that are good for our children, that are good for our families, good for our parents, and create an environment where we can flourish, where we can get back to the conservative values that make America a great nation. And that's what we want to do here. So welcome in again, Brooke. Glad to have you with us for this. It's so refreshing to hear a mom who understands what's going on in the schools and is speaking out against this. You have a lot of courage. I admire you for that. I want you to know that we think you're doing the right thing, and just want to encourage you in that. God's using you in a big way, and so keep staying in the fight and doing what you're doing. It's awesome. But today, in the second part of this episode, we wanted to talk about what can we as parents do in exposing this, and not just the family that may have a child that's struggling with this, but as a community, what can we do as a community to come against this kind of an ideology that is so destructive, and how can we basically beat it and get to a place where we realize, okay, we're not going to go in that direction anymore. What can we do? What are some things?
We've really got to get a lot of these different policies, like the 5161, out of the schools. Okay. We have to get the books out of the schools. Mm-hmm. We're working at it at a couple different angles.
Yep.
We've got to get Brave Space out of the schools. We've got to get the schools to realize their job on our taxpayer dollars, on my taxpayer money, is to educate my son for reading, writing, math, science. Yes. And we have to make sure that parents understand there's been all these things that have happened in the background with different policies and procedures, and to have them also understand to opt out. You have to opt out of sex ed.
Yes.
Now you're automatically placed in, and they've changed all the SHARE program education for children, where now, starting in 4th grade, it's a body with a vulva. It's a body with a penis, a body with a vagina.
So
that's wrong.
All the wording.
They did change it.
This is such a Marxist tactic.
Yep.
Marxism attacks the language structure. That's what critical theory does. Critical theory is part of Marxism, and critical theory, one of the things that they do is they attack everything in authority. They see language as a power structure that has to be totally dismantled, and so they're doing that. They're attacking the language. They're trying to change the way language is constructed so that it tells their narrative and gets their points across. And that's what we're trying to make everybody aware of.
Yeah. The other thing parents need to do is they've got to stand up and speak up.
Okay.
So know who your children's teachers are. Ask your children questions. Are they asking you to use pronouns? Do they have LGBTQ stuff hanging up in the classroom? Send me a picture. Get the evidence in place, and then go directly to the school, go to the principal, the vice principal, and you tell them you are not allowed to have an LGBTQ flag hanging up. I want it removed. That is illegal.
Yeah.
I encourage parents to lawyer up. If your child has been transitioned or they started to transition your child, and how do you know? If they're telling them and they're giving them breast binders, if they're telling them where to go for Planned Parenthood and giving them documentation, I was undercover. I know exactly what they were doing in the Brave Space program to do these things.
So they're doing these things.
They are doing these things.
That is horrible.
They're teaching the kids, you can trust us, not your parents. You need to make sure that if you are in a position where you need to keep your children in public school, or you're okay with them being in public school, make sure you have all these conversations with your child about who are your buddies, who do you hang out with, what kind of clubs are you into, what are your teachers promoting and pushing for you to be involved in or not be involved in.
Right.
How do you feel about that? Because what was happening with my oldest son is that there was all this push on the LGBTQ stuff. And he's like, Mom, I'm straight. And I said, honey, I know, because I'm your mother. But he goes, can I wear a straight shirt to school? And I said, no, you'd probably get in trouble. So the times have been turning. But what hasn't turned is the legality of these schools are doing things that are illegal and we have to hold them accountable. That is one tactic. That's one way.
Yeah.
It's how we can unify together.
So you're essentially saying, Brooke, that parents need to re-engage with their children's education.
Always.
They need to re-engage with their children's teachers.
Always.
Re-engage with their school administrators. Go down and talk to them. Hey, I'm interested. I want to know. And asking their children, hey, are these things happening? Because the more parents that do this, the more of an impact we're going to be able to have. We're going to put them on notice that, hey, you're not going to pull that on us. We are listening. We are paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's critical. Make sure you get to tour the school. You have some schools that won't let you tour and other schools that will. And you can point out things if you see something off. You can ask the question. Why is this happening? There's a reason why we have Title IX. Title IX is to separate women, male and female sports.
Right.
And here's the thing. We have to look at stuff in reality. We don't see women rushing over to male sports. What we see is the opposite. We see males coming into female sports. Ask them, do they have a policy that allows this in athletics? Is your son or daughter, are they into athletics? Would you be okay with that? Because if you're not, then you have to take a stance and you have to teach your children also how to take a stance.
Yeah, and that's happened already. We have someone here in our church who is at a school where that happened. A male is in the female locker room with the female team, and I'll tell you what, if I'm that girl's dad, I'm down there and I'm not letting that boy come in that locker room. That's not going to happen. And so dads, we need dads to stand up. Where's the dads at? How are the dads going to let this happen and be okay with that? So dads, it's time to take a stand and go, you know what, this is not going to happen in the school that my daughter's a part of. And if it does, then we're out of here. We're taking my family, we're getting our kids, we're getting out of this school, because that is not going to happen. And so we need the dads to raise up. We need parents to raise up. We need them to stand up and go, you know what, this is not okay.
Teachers are also, what's really interesting is they're mandatory reporters. So they are by law mandatory reporters of abuse and neglect. And now you have this flip side where if they do the brave space training and now they can have the sexual conversation, you've muddied the waters, you've blurred the lines. They need to stick in their lane of what their jobs are of mandatory reporters for abuse and neglect. And parents need to make sure you can put them on notice. You can send them a cease and desist. If you find out they are doing something illegally, which is giving them medical information, you're practicing medicine without a license now. And put them on notice. There is. It's filled.
They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're basically trying to have it both ways, but you can't.
No.
Yeah.
You're never going to have it both ways. And I do encourage parents on the legal side of things. Undercover, when I went undercover for Brave Space, the attorneys, there was a teacher. You could tell this particular teacher had some concerns, right? She wanted to do her job, but she also felt like she loved her students. But she also knew that she was a parent. She wouldn't want something hidden from her. So her concern was, where am I protected? And they proceeded to tell this teacher that she would be protected by 5161. No, she would not. If a parent sued her and said, you medically transitioned or you hid this from me, or that teacher's not going to be protected by that policy.
Wow.
So the administration's also lying on the backside. Okay. They're lying to some teachers. Yeah. And you do have educators, a lot of them who are not on board with it. And then you have ones that are pushing it. And of course, we want to keep our good educators, right?
Yes.
So we need the good educators to also stand up and speak up and say, this is not okay.
Right.
I'm a mandatory reporter of abuse and neglect. And my job is I'm a math teacher.
Yeah.
And I want to come in and do my job. And I want to teach my students math. And I want to make sure that I have high performing students. We can also look at the data of what's happening in Washoe County. You have a high absentee rate of students and also math scores, proficiency is low. They're shifting everything and making about their sexuality, and they're not even getting full education at this point.
Yeah, that's so sad. Yeah. So just coming back to a couple of things that we know are true here. We know it's impossible to change from a male to a female or vice versa.
Yep.
And so the fact that these professionals are trying to do this is going against what reality tells us in real life. And so we're living in this fantasy world where there's all this hypocrisy taking place. We realize, okay, some of these kids, there may be a real issue here where there is some mental health issues going on, but they don't need somebody to try to force them to become something that reality refuses to let them be, they need somebody to come in and treat the mental health problem, right? And that would stay true to the real policy or the real laws that are in place. But instead, we see them trying to twist this and go against all of that. So what are some other things that parents can do, Brooke, to kind of protect their kids and get to know what exactly they can do and can't do?
So they should monitor any before and after school programs. They should really know who their children's educators are. Look them up, find them on Facebook. If there's a teacher that maybe you feel doesn't align with your beliefs or values, and it's okay to ask them to move your child out of that class to another class. That's totally fine.
Okay.
Stand up for your children.
Yeah.
Make sure that they know that their voice is heard, that they can come to you. That yes, you and the other parent, you're there to help guide them in life. They're going to make mistakes along the way, but you're here to support them.
Yeah.
And at no point should any child be told, first of all, let children be children, right? No child should be told they're in the wrong body. But the reality is that all these parents that have gone along with this idea they're gonna pay consequences later. And we have to be proactive as parents. We have to make sure that we are doing our job and knowing who's around our children.
Right.
We're the gatekeepers. We're the guardians of that. And if we're not monitoring their cell phone and their computer usage and who they're hanging out with and who they're talking to and what they engage with before and after school and during school, that's where a lot of it can get lost in translation. Yeah. So part of our job, it's the biggest gift to be gifted, to be a parent, to be a mom, to be a dad, right? It is. And you're doing your child a disservice by blindly trusting anybody with your child.
That's right. That's
now,
absolutely right.
It's important for kids to learn. I think one of the great things about public education is they learn about all different people in the world, right? But at the same time, they're shifting it. They're not learning what they need to be learning to be successful in the future.
Right.
Everything is shifted, and now it's let's celebrate what your sexuality is. That's the furthest thing from their mind. Their body is changing. Their mind isn't fully developed.
Yeah.
They're learning morals and ethics, what's right, what's wrong. Make sure that you have a really strong foundation, family foundation, and you just make sure that they have comfortability to come and talk to you.
Right.
My sons know, my little guy, he's just my little guy because he's 5, but my 13-year-old who's going to be 14 in May, he knows he can come talk to me anytime about anything. And I think also as parents, we need to educate children and teach them how important abstinence is and how special it is when you are old enough to respect what the birds and the bees are. How incredibly special that is with another person, and they're desensitizing that in the name of it's feminist.
And the biblical ethic there for the sexual relationship is God created that for the marriage between the husband and the wife, and teaching our kids that from a young age that, hey, listen, these are God's boundaries that God put up, and they're good for you. They're really good for you. And God loves you, and he actually has an amazing plan for this whole area of your life. That's something that we as parents, we shouldn't run away from that, but as we are with our children, we should tell them, listen, God made you this way, and it's special. He gave you this gift. This sexual relationship is a gift for you someday with your wife or with your husband. That you're going to create a family with, and that family is a wonderful little unit, self-contained unit that God gives, that actually is the building block of all society, and it actually is a wonderful thing that God has blessed us with. Our society never flourishes more than when we protect individual rights and family rights and the right of the parents to make decisions, to be involved in decisions. But what we see happening in the school system today is that they've removed that from parents and they've given it to professionals, the people they want to call professionals. But Brooke, is there a way that we could hold some of these professionals accountable for practicing medicine without a license because of what they're doing, what they're doing, sending kids into these gender affirming care and sending them to Planned Parenthood clinics, sending them to all these things? Is there a way to prosecute them legally?
There is. First and foremost, anytime any legal matters, you got to have evidence, right?
Yeah. Okay.
That's just one of those critical things. You don't want to get into a situation where he said, she said, this and that happened. So you want to make sure you've got documentation and evidence, and these people will be held accountable. There's no way. And that will help them back off too. The more parents that come forward and say, this is what happened, here's all my documentation.
Yeah.
You medically tried to transition my daughter. You gave her access to a breast binder.
Yes.
That's technically a medical device.
Wow.
She's growing. She's going to grow young breasts no matter what. You gave her something that is now hindering her body.
Right.
And when we start holding them accountable legally, like I'm doing, that's when some of this stuff is also going to stop.
Okay.
So that's where we come in as the parents and the leaders, and we say, oh no, you took our rights. Oh no, those are ours.
Yeah.
And we show, look, Your Honor, this is exactly how they took our rights. Here's the document. That's the evidence. It's in black and white. You read it out for the parents.
Okay.
It's not hidden. It's right there.
Yes.
It's in
Have the
communities all around the United States. And if you don't know where to go to lawyer up, they can contact me.
Okay.
I work with tons of different attorneys. And if I don't know somebody, I always do a little outreach. Hey, I have this particular case. Can you tell me who I should send them to?
Okay.
But evidence is key.
Okay.
Having testimony from your child, just as you would if something, heaven forbid, if they were sexually assaulted,
Right.
you would have them give a testimony
Yeah.
of what happened, and then holding the teachers accountable and really knowing what's in the classrooms and then making them take it down. It's illegal. So the only two flags in a classroom are the American flag and the state flag.
Okay.
It's illegal to have any other kinds of flags in Nevada. Now, some other states have passed different bills
Okay.
on some of this stuff related to this stuff.
Okay.
Nevada is not.
Okay.
You can only have those two in the classroom.
Great.
And you can demand. You go down there with a smile on your face, and you can do it in a nice way. You can say, hey, I understand this is in Mr. Jones's class, and I want it removed today.
Right.
And I'll take pictures of making sure that's removed.
Wow.
And
That's great advice.
when they retaliate, because they will, document everything, because then you will have a target on your back, but be
Wow.
prepared. Be
And you
prepared.
experienced that personally with your son, right?
Yes.
Your son was actually retaliated against.
Multiple times he's been retaliated
That's so
against.
sad. That's crazy.
But we stand up together, and he's very strong. And I've told him, you remain strong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're entitled to have your own space, and the Constitution provides you to have your First Amendment right.
Right.
And the other thing that we're doing this year, which is exciting, is that I do want as many parents that want to participate for their children. I do have shirts that there's only two genders, and they come in black and white because there's only two genders.
Yeah.
And so we played off that a little bit, but we would love as many students that want to wear those peacefully on the last day of school this year. There's ways that we can peacefully go about this.
Yeah.
It's not about, and I tell my son, you let everybody else be who they are.
Right.
But you are allowed to be who you are too.
Yes.
And so don't let anybody tell you that you have to be LGBTQ.
Yeah.
You
Right.
are who
Right.
you are.
I love that. I love that, Brooke. And I think you have a great approach too. I love what you said earlier about just go to your school and ask questions. Ask them a lot of
Yep.
questions. There's nothing wrong with you as a
No.
parent coming in and asking questions and gaining knowledge and understanding. And then, doing it peacefully. We represent Christ as Christians. We are Christ-filled individuals that want other people to know Jesus too.
Right.
We want them to know the gospel of Jesus Christ too. And so the way that we represent ourselves should be in a way that actually adorns the gospel of Jesus Christ, in a way that is something that people would go, hey, that mom, that dad, they really care about their son. They really care about the way that their kid's school is. I like that. I want to be like that, And then they ask more questions. They go, oh, this person is a Christian. They go to church. They study the Bible. They're getting a lot of their ideas from the Word of God. Wow, that could really create a lot of a thirst for God in our community if we have parents doing this the right way.
I think we backfire if we go on attack mode, right?
Yeah.
So if you write a very angry email, oh my gosh, I heard that there was in the classroom, you're not going to get good reception from that. When I approach different teachers, because I've approached many of them, I write the emails in such a way that I'm showing them what is happening is not okay with me.
Right.
I'm not going to let it get any further, and it needs to be corrected, and I will be on notice. I will take the notification, let me know when it's corrected.
Yeah.
And approaching it that way too, because they can't tell you you're wrong. They can't say, well, you came at me and you were attacking me or
Sure.
you were yelling
Yeah,
at me or this.
You were respectful.
You said, oh no, I laid it out legally and respectfully, and now you're going to make the changes happen,
Right.
or else we're going to be in court.
Okay. Yeah, that's so good. And you know what, Brooke, you're doing that in such a way that you're setting a good example for your sons. And your sons are learning through your example that it's okay to not agree with everything that's being pushed on us. And we're going to respectfully but in a polite, strong manner,
Yes.
we're going to let them know that we're going to be okay doing what we do as well. And so, well, as we wrap this up, it's been a great conversation with you, Brooke. I'm very, very thankful for you. I think a takeaway for me as a parent is that it's so important as parents that we get in our kids' business
Yes.
in a loving way, that
Yes.
we go, I care about you too much to let you be destroyed by these crazy ideologies in this crazy world. And I'm going to love you enough to actually get involved in your life and get involved in your school or whatever it takes. But I'm going to set up those boundaries around you because I love you. And I'm going to hopefully teach you the truth so that you walk in the truth. And it says that there's actually a Bible verse that says, my greatest joy is that my children walk in the truth. And that's from, I think, 2nd or 3rd John. But it talks about just that desire as a parent that our children would just know the truth and walk in the truth. And the truth, the Bible says, will set you free. And so, Brooke, I want to thank you again for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for all the thoughts, the insight, the wisdom that you shared. And we want to wish you the best in your fight and in your court cases and all of that. We're praying for you, and we're going to continue to pray for you.
And they can always contact me on email at ourparentalrights. So it's OUR parental rights.
Our parental rights
at gmail.com. And they can go to the website. We have a book. I have a book coming out on this, and it's going to have, because this, yes, we broke this into 2 series, but there's a lot to cover.
Lot more. Yeah.
And so I've been doing research for over a year, and we're putting it all together in a book that we'll have out in the next couple months, which is great.
Awesome.
But then it'll also give talking points if they forget something. And, how can I approach this? We're going to have a whole section in there as well.
That's wonderful. So ourparentalrights.org is the website, and you guys can check it out. And God bless you until we meet again. You've been listening to Taking a Stand with Pastor Phil McKay. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share. Also, you can follow us on social media, and for more content, visit calvaryreno.org/takingastand. Visit calvaryreno.org to learn more about our church. And if you have a question, please email it to info@calvarychapelreno.org. And remember, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything.